everyone, I'm very excited to announce a brand new series where I'll be explaining how to make a smooth, responsive website using auto layout and constraint from the scratch. If you are a beginner, then don't worry, this video will get you covered. So don't forget to smash that subscription button and hit that notification bell to stay in the loop. Let's do this. Hello guys, so now that we are in, so I would like to start with the theory and then we'll move on to the practical part. I have added time frames so you can watch this video as per your convenience, but I would request you to go through the theory before starting with the practical if you are a fresher. Now let's get into it.
What is constraints? So constraints tell Figma how layers should respond when you resize their frames, and it helps you to control how designs look across different sizes and devices. So what does it mean? For example, if we have a frame and if we have an element inside it and if we add constraints to it. So for example, if this is a button, I want it to be fixed at one end. I'll put constraints on this element, say left and top. So what happens? Nothing will happen if I change the size because it's fixed to the top and left. But if I change it to say left and right, suppose this is a nav bar, I want to change the size of the screen. If I am stretching it, now see it is changing, it is resizing itself along with the frame. So that is the function of constraints. It helps you to you know tell Figma how the frames should react. See, I have two different points. Constraints allow you to control how objects respond to changing frames, how objects, this is the object, respond when you change the size of the frame. Now we'll go into this in details later. So this is what constraint does. On the other hand, what auto layout does, it is a property that can be added to frames and components, and it lets you create design that grow or shrink to fit and reflow as their contents change. So basically, auto layout allows you to control how frames respond to the changing objects. In case of constraint, it is how objects respond to changing frames, but in this case, how frames respond to a changing object. For example, for example, if I have suppose two cards like this, okay, and then make this frame an auto layout. See, the icon changed, so now it's an auto layout frame. It's an auto layout frame. Okay, so what happens when I am suppose increasing the number of cards? See, the frame changed, but that didn't happen in case of the constraints. There, when we are resizing the frame, like what happened in case of the constraint, this is the element, this is the constraint frame. If I duplicate or copy another element, nothing is happening to the size of this frame. But if I add more cards in it, the size of the frame is changing. So auto layout allows you to control how frames respond to a changing object. Now if I resize it, don't worry, I'll explain you how to, how all this works, what keys I'm pressing. If I change it to fill container, if I resize the frame, see, everything is adjusting itself. It's stretching as am stretching the frame, it's resizing, readjusting, isn't it? So these are the difference.
Now let's jump straight to the practical part. If you want to gain more insights about constraints and auto layout, then you can check out Ansh Mehra's videos.
So let's say we want to make a responsive card. So for a responsive card, what are the elements that we need? One is we need a picture. Another is we need a heading, maybe a small body, and a button. So these are the four elements that we need to make a card. So let's first design the card. Later on we'll add responsiveness in it. So let's start by adding a picture. I'll be using Lumi plugin. So let's add a random image. Okay.
Now that I have an image, I'll be changing the content.
So I have changed everything as per my need. So now we have a picture, a headline. I've changed the title, a body, and a button. Buy button or buy now button. Buy now. Okay. Now, in order to make that card, we need to remember that we have to add auto layout to each and every element. That is important. For this one,
We'll just add some corner radius.
then we will add auto layout. For adding auto layout, you can either right click and go to add auto layout, or directly press shift A from your keyboard and the auto layout frame will be added. Now I see that we have a panel, auto layout panel, in the right side of the screen. So you see we have this direction buttons, we have this vertical gap between items option settings, we have the padding, this is horizontal padding, this is vertical padding, and the alignment setting. So I'll explain it to you one by one. First we'll just remove the padding. You see there is a border, a margin around this picture. We do not want this for this picture, so I'll just remove it. See, I'm making it 0 and it's now there is no border outside it, right? So we have this image frame, and also this icon is present. If I change it to center, then the icon will change, but this basically represents auto layout, whereas this represents frame. Okay, in this auto layout frame we have a rectangle which is the image inside. We'll do the same thing for this too. So in this case, I want the title and body to stay together and adjust its sizes. Okay, so for that, I'll select the two and add auto layout by pressing Shift A. Now what happens?
Now what happens? I can easily change the distance between the heading and the body. We can either use this pink line in between them, or we can directly do it from the auto layout panel. Then we can name it as body.
You don't have to group it manually. You just need to press auto layout and this two will be grouped nicely.
Now we'll do the same thing with the button. For this, press Shift A and we have the frame around the button, but there's too much gap, so we'll decrease the line height of the text. We'll make it 30. Now we will be adding the background. We'll add some padding, a background, change the color to something like a deep blue and the text to white. Round the corner radius. Yes, but the text is too big, so we'll just increase the size of the button. Before that, we'll name it as button and text. It's looking too big, so I'll change the size. Yes, now they are matching. Okay,
So we have the layouts, the auto layouts ready. Everything is within auto layout. So what we'll do, we will just add all of them in another auto layout. Basically everything should be in auto layout. So we have added another auto layout which we'll name as card. Now what happens, you see all these elements are now under one frame, which is the card frame. We'll add the same thing here as well, like changing the corner radius to 20 or say 30 in this case. Okay, and we will add padding 24. Nice, it looks good, right? Now let's see how it works. If I change the size, then it's working well, right? We'll just decrease the size, decrease the distance between the two. Let's make it 24 precisely. It's looking fine, right? It's quite responsive. Now see what auto layout does if by any chance
I feel like adding more text, so I'll copy and paste it. So you can see that the size of the frame is increasing along with the text. So this is what auto layout does. As we have already learned here, that auto layout allows you to control how frames respond to changing objects. In this case, this is the object, that is the body text, and the frame is resizing itself as per the change made to the text. Now another thing to remember is that everything inside the main frame or parent frame should be set to fill container. Okay, like we have the image set to fill container, the image inside set to fill container, the title, the body is set to
fixed. So what happens whenever I'm increasing the size, since the picture is set to fill, the the title is set to fill, so it's expanding along with the size and it's resizing itself, but the body text isn't. It's because it's set to fill, so we need to change it to fill to make it responsive. And for the button, you can either set it to fill container if you want a button like this which will stretch from one end to another, then you can set it to fill, or you can just set it to hug content.
What does hug content mean?
It hugs the content inside. So if you set it to fixed, it will remain fixed no matter how you what is the size of the frame, it will remain fixed. Hug content will do the same thing, but what it does, if you change the content to something like
see more, so you see that the button, the container, is adjusting its size along with the text that is inside it. But this won't happen if I set it to fixed, because in that case the container will be fixed, the container size will be fixed no matter what the text length is inside that frame.
So we will set it to hug content.
Now we are almost done with the card, but it's not complete yet. Do you know why? You tell me, have you ever seen a card like this or this? No, right? Because cards are responsive, but to a certain limit. For instance, there should be a minimum and maximum point beyond which the card cannot shrink or expand. That is possible with the help of this minimum and maximum width, which I'll be covering in my next video. Because I do not want you guys to be overwhelmed with information, I want you to practice and then come back to the second part of this video to learn and understand minimum and maximum width restrictions. So with this we come to an end of part 1. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. There is a lot more to cover in this topic, so make sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon. And also do not forget to like this video and comment down any queries that you have. Till then, stay tuned.